Okay, it is my pleasure today to welcome back Reverend Laura Bennett. And Reverend Laura is the minister of an online health ministry, Unity of the Heartmind. She's a third generation Unity minister, which is pretty impressive. She's one-time chair of the Biblical Studies and Skills for the Unity Movement, and she is going to share that information with that. I'm sure that's part of her message to us today and how it affects our lives in the modern day and in the Word. So, Reverend Laura, we're thrilled to have you with us, and you're on.
All right. Okay. Very great. Very great. Well, it's so good to be here again today. I'm also a student of world religion and have practiced many forms of prayer and over the years and holiday celebrations. So we're going to celebrate one of them today. And in your spirit of universal oneness and drawing from all the spiritual paths. One of the things that I really think is a spiritual acknowledgement. And so what we're going to do is I came up with so many slides this time, just had so many lovely illustrations. I couldn't help myself. So we're just going to start the slides and I'll just talk us through them. And thank you, Kyle, for that. So this, I really do believe it is a spiritual thing to express our gratitude to forms of service. There are many forms of service, as our daily word said yesterday. And one particular form and one that a lot of people uproot their lives for, and actually some take their lives, put their lives at risk for, is to be a veteran in our military services. My husband is one, my stepfather was one, my father was one. So I've come from a family of veterans. So I do love to honor our veterans. And if there's anyone who's a veteran today, can you let us know, wave your hand or put up your hand or say something, or I just want to acknowledge and thank you for what you did. It's a difficult thing. And I remember my dad was a veteran of the Korean War, and my stepdad of both Korea and Vietnam, and Larry of Vietnam, Larry, my husband. So we are just, it's interesting how in my study of history and humanity, most countries or empires, as the case may be, who get to delve into diversity and spirituality and philosophy and education, most all of them have had a strong military, so that their day-to-day survival was not an issue. However, we do acknowledge many countries, or several countries, especially today, where day-to-day survival is an issue. And we're just, our thoughts and our blessings are with everyone who is involved in the conflicts in Gaza and Israel, in Ukraine, Russia. We just hold all people in our hearts, And my recommendation is, every time you think of someone who might be engaged in conflict, or who is involved in a work that is at risk, that you just hold them in light, see them filled with light, surround them with light. And I think the more we do this, the more effect it'll have on our world as a whole. So I want to acknowledge and to thank our veterans and their families. I got a little bit of a taste of it when Larry worked for the government in later years and was in the war zones in the Middle East. and I was still at home doing the ministry. So I just got a little taste of it. And we just feel a great gratitude for people who give so much. Okay. And moving on to what our universal celebration is today. Okay. And the title of the talk is in series of talks. You're going to hear, if you were here for my talk in August, you're going to hear the forms of love that I addressed then, but in a different perspective. And our title is Love Most Beautiful. We are celebrating Diwali today. And the way to say Happy Diwali in Hindi is Diwali ki Shubhkamnayan. Shubhkamnayan. So Diwali ki Shubhkamnayan. I won't have us repeat that as an affirmation today, but there are several ways to say Happy Diwali. In fact, there's a different way to say Diwali. Diwali is the festival of lights in India. As we have our festival of lights at midwinter. You know, some just call it Festival of Lights and others call it Christmas. But we have our festival of lights in the Western societies. Diwali is the festival of lights as the days are starting to get shorter and the harvest time is in. The light of every human being is celebrated. It is a celebration of the return of the god Rama from exile. In other words, the spirit of God that was once lost has been found, and it is something to rejoice in. Deepa is light, and Wali is the clay lamp that holds the light, the oil and the light. And it just means row of lights, a row of lights. So happy Diwali, everybody. It is the highest holiday in the Hindu tradition, and people of the Islamic religion in India also celebrate it in their own way. When Larry and I were in Bahrain, it was celebrated there. And it is a widespread throughout the East and Middle East holiday. Okay, next slide. There we are. So, based on our Diwali celebration, our most well-known passage on light in the Bible is this one. And I'm going to ask, when we have a passage to read, I'm going to ask for volunteers. So check your mind and your heart, see if you want to be someone who reads one of these passages. So I'm going to ask for a volunteer to read this passage from Matthew. Okay, thank you, Terry.
You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, and before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Matthew 5:14-16.
Wonderful, wonderful. So several things in this passage. The passages from the Sermon on the Mount, if nothing else was read, and those passages were taken to their depth, I truly believe they would be a pathway to enlightenment. These are universal teachings. These are universal teachings. You are the light of the world. And basically what it's saying, but if you're hiding your light, if you've got all this stuff on top of it, you know, in this case, in the metaphor of a bushel basket, it's not going to do much for you or for anyone else. So what we're going to talk about today is how to let our light shine, how to let our light shine. And Kyle, if you can move us to the next, there we go. Okay, so we'll start by looking at what the oil in the lamp symbolizes. The oil that keeps the light of wisdom, of healing, the illumination in our lives, the light of your very being. What keeps that light going is love. And we need to keep our love well fed. We need to keep pouring the oil into the lamp of the heart. We need to allow love in, and we need to allow love to express, to keep that light shining in us and as us. So how do you share your light with others? The way we share with others in anything in this world is relationships. I believe that's why we are here. We are all spiritually already one, united at one. Spiritually speaking, we already fill the universe. There really is nothing we need to do to be more of what we need to be. We are already that. It's just simply recognizing it. And I believe that we are given birth in this world because our relationships in this world are there to support us, to help us grow into this recognition. Even some of the most challenging and difficult relationships, which should never have turned out the way they did, or things shouldn't have happened in them the way they did. Even those have some way of how can I say it? If we go to the oil of love, if we go to the fuel of love, then we can find, through even the most challenging relationships, a way to love ourselves more and to love others more. These conflicts in our world, I think love is the only way to resolve them. I think people recognizing the light of love in themselves is also the same light that's in others. I think that is the way we're going to start seeing each other as human beings, and not just as what can I say, collateral in a war. I think that's where people need to go, to that love, to that empathy, to that light for humanity. And that's what we are looking at today, are the forms of love that connect us in relationship with humanity, whether it's people in our lives or in our world. Okay, next slide. There we go. The Philostergos is a form of love I introduced before in August. So I have a little review on the left of what it means. And on the right, I put in how it works in relationship. So it means prone to love. Philostergos means prone to love. Loving affection, loving tenderly. It's intimate, connected, familial love. Love shared in family and community. It binds us together in mutually beneficial relationships. And as I said in August, you might compare it to a pod of orcas or a pride of lions or a flock of birds. This connection that we have with each other that is a blessing to each other. We might have challenges. And anybody have challenges in your family relationships at all? Ever had? Yeah. So we might have those challenges, but part of that is our growth too, is our growth to better understand ourselves. And we have this relationship with others that benefits us both, that benefits us and those. Now, what we need to hold in our hearts with Philostergos is love as a relationship is also a self-differentiation. This was a term that author and psychologist Murray Brown and study of human behavior came up with. Murray Brown, self-differentiation. Self-differentiation is the acknowledgement of your distinction and uniqueness as a human being while doing the same for others. Okay, so it is this, it's a self-respect and a respect for others, acknowledging oneness while honoring differences. So imagine in a world of oneness, if everybody recognized that oneness does not mean sameness, that we can still be uniquely who we are and acknowledge and recognize our connection, our innate unity with each other through spirit. This takes some doing. It's a bit of a dance to actually allow a human being to be different than you, to have different perspectives, different ideas of how things should be. Not just from group to group or nation to nation or race to race, but from individual to individual. We are all of these unique, wonderful, beautiful expressions, just like each light in the row of lights. We're each individual in our own way. Any row of lights, and I've done some of this kind of work. It's called the puja, and the arati, where you're waving the light to celebrate these holidays. But when the lights are all lined up, each light looks, if you look at it, they all, create this great glow, but each one looks a little different, even if it's in an identical lamp. Each lamp, I've had these little lamps that I've owned these little Diwali lamps, and each lamp, even though it's made of the same design, is just a little different than the other lamp. So we are all very distinct. And the way we light up the world is to come together in that oneness and in that unique quality that makes us so beautiful. In a relationship of self-differentiation, we are responsible for ourselves while at the same time responsive to others. Okay, so we take care of our own well-being, but we also respond to others to support their well-being. We honor everyone's integrity and well-being, and we are included in that. We honor everyone's integrity and well-being. And we choose connection over ego protection. Choose connection over ego protection. And I'm sure you've heard the phrase, would you rather be right or happy? Would you rather dominate or make a connection? Okay, so I'm not saying you have to give up your leadership or anything like that. Leadership and dominance are two different things. Leadership is actually the ability to facilitate the best coming out in others. And you do it by being responsible, by taking the point, by leading, but you're also enrolling others and engaging others in their best. And anyway, so choose connection over ego protection. And it's admitting when you've messed up and being willing to learn from others. It's all of that, as well as offering them your gifts. Okay, next slide. Okay, under the stained glass spirit, who would like to read this? Who would like to read these two quotes? Okay, Barbara, thank you. Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. Sorry.
No worries.
There is one light, the wisdom of the heart, and many lamps, the hearts of all living souls. Look at each person the way you would the individual pieces of a stained glass window. Appreciate their differences. Welcome their unique contribution. Nurture their soul and their spirit. Tracy Brown.
Yes. And that is a book I highly recommend. By the way, if you have not come across Tracy Brown's work, especially addressing stained glass spirit, this is what she calls the stained glass spirit. It's a spirit of oneness, but not sameness. It's a spirit of unity while recognizing the uniqueness of each individual. Okay. All right. And our next slide. Okay, here is the other form of love we're looking at today. And you might remember this from our previous talk because it's a very familiar word, Philadelphia. Brotherly love, brotherly, sisterly love, familial relationship with the whole human family. And beyond, really. Philadelphia is a connection with all living things, really. It's awakening to oneness. It brings the experience of divine love into the present moment. If you really want to focus on love, start inviting humanity into your heart. Start bringing the people, people with whom you hold differences. Perhaps, I think if we learn to hold, even, I'm going to say it, even if we learn to hold our political opponents in our hearts with love, again, if enough people do this, that is what will become contagious, is the love and the respect. Especially in the face of division and opposite opinions and strategies and everything else. Stand for what you believe in, because that is your uniqueness. That's your self-differentiation. And hold everyone in your heart with love. And I think I've said this before. My teacher, one of my great teachers, Ed Rabel, who was a great metaphysician in unity. And he interpreted some scriptures. And from the 10 Commandments, he interpreted thou shalt not kill in this way. And he said it simply like this: give everyone safe passage through your mind. Give everyone safe passage through your mind. All right, that can be a challenge. And it's not about not holding people to account, because you can actually hold people to account while holding them in love. How many of you have had children and you held them to account for their behavior, but it didn't change how much you loved them? Anybody have that experience? Yeah. Yeah, you can hold people to account while holding them in your heart. Now, Philadelphia, you do it in a broader sense. You take whole populations and you invite them into your heart. The largest room in the world is the room in your heart. It's the room of your heart. You can hold the whole world. You've heard the song, he's got the whole world in his hands. Well, we've got the whole world in our hearts. So love as a relationship with Philadelphia is sacred service. That's the way it expresses in relationship, as sacred service. We honor those who've served yesterday And we honor those who serve in many capacities. And it is sacred service, mindful contribution through shared humanity. Mindful contribution. That means when you give, you are aware that you are embracing that to which you are giving. You are filling the gift with spiritual blessing. It's very conscious, very deliberate contribution. And you, through shared humanity, means you are in touch. You are holding people in your heart and then making the gift from there. If we've responded to any like natural disasters, if we've given to the Red Cross or anything like that, and or to war zones with given to the World Hunger Association or something, where we actually hold the people in our hearts and then give from there. So to bring Philadelphia alive, people of the world to my awareness and hold them in my heart. What can I do for the greater good? Okay, I'm getting a warning. My internet connection is unstable. I have my backup. If it does glitch out, just give me a few seconds and I'll switch. You can probably see me on 2 cameras. Okay. All right. All right. In fact, yeah. Okay, very good. Very good. All right, next slide. Next slide. All right. And who would like to read this passage from Thich Nhat Hanh?
I can read that.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
We must be aware of the situation around us. Then we know what to do to be of help. We were once faced with a choice to continue meditating in monasteries or to leave the meditation halls in order to help the people who were suffering. After careful reflection, we decided to do both, to go out and help and to do so in mindfulness. Once there is seeing, there must be acting. Otherwise, what is the use of seeing?
Very, very powerful quote from Thich Nhat Hanh, one of our great master teachers of recent times. Yeah. Once there is seeing, there must be acting. Otherwise, what is seeing? Even if the acting is prayer. And if the prayer leads us to act, to do something in the world, to follow up with something in the world, then we follow through. And it might just be to pray. All right. Okay. Yep. Speaking of acting, Larry has placed this computer on my right in my cat's sleeping place on the desk. So I'm adjusting it a little bit. Okay. Because she has jumped up here to join. All right. So it is in the action that sacred service is done. Now we can't do everything for everybody, even though we see it. What we can do is hold everybody in our hearts and in our prayers. You know, people who say, that prayer does no good. I disagree with that. Prayer by itself needs to be followed up with action in a lot of instances, but prayer does a lot of good. And if our action is to invite other people to pray with us or to spread the energy of prayer, if our action actually spreads the energy of prayer, that too makes a difference in our world. And if we are led to contribute financially, to contribute in service, a hands-on form of contribution, in our prayers, then we need to act on that, to see in ourselves a vision of what we can do, of what is possible in physical action, in manifest action, is also calling us to follow through. And it is the action that we do, whether it's to spread the energy of prayer or to actually do something in service, or finances for a person or a situation. Those are the things that make a difference in the world, and that is how we can express Philadelphia and manifest Philadelphia. Okay, next slide. I thought this might be the next slide. Okay, so Philostergos, Philadelphia. The forms of love we have looked at so far are agape. We looked at universal love in our first talk. Now we are looking at Philostergos and Philadelphia. We will look at 2 more forms of love when we come together again in 2 weeks. We are looking at the we're looking at Phileos, which is actually self-love at a very, very deep level. So we're going to learn about self-love, and we're going to learn about sensual love, love that we feel, not just sexually, but in our senses and our bodies, and that's what we call eros. So we're going to address those 2 things going into the holidays, because we can really do a lot to bring them into expression in the holidays. And it will be Thanksgiving weekend on Sunday, which is, so we'll be looking at gratitude, we'll be looking at faith, because faith is the way that opens the way toward the walk to Christmas or midwinter solstice or Hanukkah, whatever holiday you celebrate, and the New Year. All right. So in the meantime, Philostergos and Philadelphia are deeply felt when we truly and consciously connect with others, and when we choose to love. And I was going to read this poem this morning. Okay, I will need to take a moment. I forgot to bring it up because we had our internet glitch. I forgot to bring up my poem for reading. So if you will bear with me, and I will tell you this story. Here we go, exit full screen. And yep, there we are. All right. So there we go. Some of you may have heard me share this poem before, or this story. Larry and I were in Israel in 2012. And we were visiting. We were living in the Middle East at the time. And we arrived there to be in a seminar with some friends who live there, and in Tel Aviv. And while we were there in the seminar, they came in and announced that a war had started with Gaza. And shortly after that, we heard something flying overhead. It might have been jets, it might have been missiles, we don't know. We do know the Iron Dome, was in full effect, but and they told us when they made that announcement, they said, if there's anything we need to know to go to safety or anything, we'll let you know. So we were there in the midst of a war. We did not stop our plans. We were staying in the middle of the country on the coast, at mid-coast in Netanya in Israel. And we were driving out each day to visit those special sacred areas that have been so much a part of my heart for so long. So we were in Jerusalem when there was an air raid. And during the air raid, we stood against the wall, because that's about all we could do. Everybody disappears off the street. The air raid siren starts. Everybody disappears off the street. And we have no place to go. So we're standing against the old wall there. And I'm realizing that around my shoulder, I have this satchel. I'm carrying this satchel. And in this satchel are the prayers of the last 3 ministries I had visited and taught at back in the States. And with each ministry, I had these forms. And I said, I'm going to Israel in the Middle East, and I have this little form. If you would fill out your own prayer of peace for there. So I was carrying this satchel filled with these prayers, and I stood against the wall, held the satchel close, and just went into prayer. And then after a few minutes, they gave us the all clear. I got home after that trip. The war ended. It was only a 10-day war. It ended the day before we left. So we were actually on the Sea of Galilee when we got the news, or what's called Lake Kinneret in Israel, when we got the news that the war had ended. We heard a couple more explosions over our time there, and you know, and it was Thanksgiving. So we had a Thanksgiving meal on the Sea of Galilee, or Lake Kinneret, giving thanks for peace. And then when I got home, I wrote this poem because how it must, what the experience must be for the people of Gaza as well as Israel, for both peoples. And this is the poem I wrote, and because I was troubled by this level of conflict in our world. And I was sitting out on the balcony meditating, and there was a bit of a morning wind. So I call this poem Morning Wind. The morning wind sings a song of souls who, seeking to be strong, are faced with death when violence gains the upper. So where is peace to be found when countless lives turn upside down, and in blind hate we cannot see that love resides in you and me? In willing hearts and generous hands who strive to serve and understand how wounded souls can heal within, the way of peace can begin. Then who and what am I called to be in making peace reality? I'm called to know that what I feel is for others just as real. All the anger, regret, and blame, all the guilt and all the shame are but shadows that can't reside where forgiveness and love abide. So when the shadows in me arise, I pause and breathe and realize they are but shadows brought on by fear of losing things I hold so dear. Then I remember, thinking of the truth, that I am one through love with people and things that I have known, and thus I cannot lose my own. So I forgive this fearful one. In self-acceptance, peace has begun. And I, with open heart and ears, am to heal the fears, to love and accept for who they are, all others, whether near or far, and share the beauty that I see in them, for it's the same in me. whatever culture, creed, or place, we all can lovingly embrace the shadows that we have within. And with the old song, let it begin with me. This peace on earth I find in morning wind and quiet mind. And thank you. And that leads us into our quiet time. And where we take a deep breath and close our eyes and become aware of the light that is burning brightly in your heart right now. And bring into that light those who are near and dear to you. Those friends and family in your community. The people of this nation or the nation wherever you are, all of the people. If there is anyone toward whom you feel antagonistic, bring them into the light. Just hold them in the light. And those you love and align with and want to see that love grow exponentially, bring them into the light. Bring the people of Israel and Gaza into the light, especially the leaders who are making decisions for all the people. And our nation's leaders as they work with the other leaders of nations. Bring Ukraine, the people of Ukraine, people of Russia into the light. And now see the light that is in your heart filling the world and the people of the world filling your heart. And ask yourself, what is mine to be and do? What is mine to be and do? And Kyle, give us just a moment in the silence. And then if you would play Daniel Namad, and then we'll do our last slides after that. Thank you, Kyle. If you can hear me, because I know I was getting some glitches during that. Okay, and move to the next slide. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so choose love. Oops, the next slide.
This is the last slide I have. Is this right?
Lost it?
Oh,
Okay,
you're back.
okay, good. Choose love, choose peace, and there will be enough light for the whole world. And there they are pouring the oil of love into the lamps to feed the light. So happy Diwali, everyone.
Reverend Laura, thank you so much for
I
your
will do my
message.
best to.
You're fading out on us.
Yes, yes. I'll do my best to hang in. So.
Well, we hope
Okay.
you get
Well,
to hang
thank
in
you.
for our coffee
you.
talk, which is after the.
I will do my best to hang in there for the coffee talk. Yeah.
Okay, great, great.
Okay.